Thank you, Sangeet, and good to be amongst friends here. I wondered why Benedict wanted me to open this session. And I remember the conversation that I had with him at the time that he was brainstorming for this LitFest theme. And one of the questions that he asked was, he said, what are the books that you're reading? What is it that you're working on? And I made a statement which said that I think if you come and look at my bookshelf now, close to 50% of the books would not have been there if you had met me 5 years ago. And he said, why don't you speak on that? And then I said, but yours is a place for authors. I mean, why would I be there opening this session? And then he said, no problem, we'll find a right title for you, okay? But the answer to what I could bring to this session came in quite unexpected ways, because I was collaborating with Shubha, who is here, on a dance performance with Anuradha Vikrant, a very renowned Bharatanatyam exponent from Bangalore, on looking at leadership lessons through Bharatanatyam. What can we take away? And in that session, she walked up to the stage, on the stage, and she said, every artist needs an art lover. Unless I can create art lovers out of you, how can I, as an artist, survive? So every one of you authors in this room, I think you need a book lover. And as a book lover is how I'm here this morning. So how does my bookshelf change reflect the changing Vasanthi? So what I did was just went back and used the last 2 weeks to look at all the books that I had bought over a period of time and classified them as, in some sense, quite interestingly, reflective of life changes that I have been through. Till 2006, the cupboard was just full of C.K. Prahalad, Henry Mintzberg, Dave Ulrich, Linda Grattan, Rosabeth Moscanter, Mark Huselid, Tichy, and I don't have to go further, along with practice books, In Search of Excellence, Lee Iacocca, On a Clear Day You Can See General Motors, blah, 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 blah. The bestsellers of that period, along with some of the greatest management thinkers. But in 2007, and it's quite interesting, that suddenly my first discontinuous book from this was The Ethical Brain and Richard Layard's Happiness. And I asked myself, what is it about 2007 that got me onto this tangent? And quite interestingly, it also reflected the rapid growth of Bangalore's sectors and the ensuing ethical issues that arose in human resource management as an outcome of that. So people were asking me, how can you be more fair in the way you do performance management? How can our recruitment processes reflect the diversity and inclusion that we want? And I realized that in 2007, people were wanting to talk about social cost of Bangalore. And at that point in time, suddenly, the shareholder human resource perspective that defined and shaped the professional me became a stakeholder, HRM-centered business professional. And I think this journey is interesting because my cupboard suddenly had servant leadership, Nonaka's knowledge emergence, and of course, by 2012, between Kahneman, Sandel, and Joseph Stiglitz, they just sat next to each other, along with a Senge, Schumpeter, and Adam Smith, and I realized I was doing something crazy. I was no longer reading books thoroughly. I was not reading them and putting that away. I was actually reading them in simultaneity, often 4 books around me, trying to make sense of the world that 4 different people were coming from. And in this making sense of the other's world as a book lover, I began to make sense of what does it mean for me as a professional. And there came Shubhrato Bakshi that you're going to listen to this afternoon, a must-read book I use extensively across all groups that I work with. But in professional, Shubhrato just says something which is wonderful, which is that a professional is not about knowledge and skills. A professional is about the integrity to that knowledge and skills that the person demonstrates in every encounter. And I'm interpreting and reinterpreting him, but in every encounter and experience, the moments of truth that you begin with others, that you give others. From here in 2014, and I have exactly 4 more minutes to go, and I'm right bang halfway into the talk, and that just says something about my planning. My cupboard steadily changed to looking at Deep Work by Cal Newport, sitting next to Altruism by Matthew Ricard. Big Data and the Righteous Mind. The agile mind sits with Ramchandran's emerging mind, and I truly don't understand. There is Dan Ariely competing with Taleb, but there is also the great transformation by Karen Armstrong, sitting next to the Indians by Sudhir Kakar, and the future of boards by Ramcharan, and people and tech. It is in this complexity that the questions that I raise today are about where does mind end, where does brain begin? Where do emotions stop? Where does rationality of decision making begin? Where are the heuristics that got me success so far become the biases that actually frame my failure? In 2016, NASSCOM called me to do a work on future-ready leadership competencies. And as I began to interact with hundreds of people, right from college students all the way to CEOs of companies, 4 patterns emerged from the context. And it didn't matter whether you were an individual contributor in a retail company or you were the chairman of a public sector bank. The socio-political, external, regulatory context is changing in ways that I'm not able to comprehend. Technologies is changing in ways that I'm unable to predict. Customers' preferences are changing in ways that challenge traditional assumptions with which I existed in the world. But above all, new stakeholders are emerging over whom I have no control, no clue, and not even an understanding of. What does this mean for organizations? 4 buzzwords that I don't think they understand themselves. Collaboration, value creation, innovation, and last but not the least, experimentation. How does one do all of these? Business models will change, structures will change, but how does one go about doing this? And the last piece, which is for each one of you as individuals in this room, what really came out of that study was 4 things that we are going to need that currently our day jobs don't equip us with. First one, how do I sense the environment, and can I sense the environment better ahead of others? How can I do quick experimentation, what we call as agility? Succeed, fail, sprint back. Third one, how can I shed all the things that make me successful and yet use them in ways that will give me future success? Because what got me here is not going to get me there. And last but not the least, how do I become cognitively more flexible? How do I manage an iPad, an iPhone, and the technologies that surround me every day? Because my brain is shaping my mind, and my mind is shaping my brain. What are the unasked questions? Will we have jobs that we have today? Yes, but they will not be the same because 40% of 60% of the jobs, the work that you're doing today will not exist in their current form. So, experiment. Can organizations guarantee jobs? No, they can't. So learn and cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're never going to be an entrepreneur. Who will plan careers? You, and you. Don't even trust an organization and think about how to build an organizationally resilient career wherever you are. What do I need to do now? Passion, expertise, and opportunity. It is at that cusp that the future of work lies. Passion, expertise, and opportunity. Do I have one of the 3 to begin with? Do I have all the 3? If so, where am I going? And last but not the least, I think my bookshelf will continue to hold a Ramakrishna Paramahamsa with an Adam Smith. And how do I reconcile that is the story of my life. Thank you so much.